Thanks for staying with us. So there was a post we saw. So a popular Nigerian actress, Stella Damasus, who lives in the US, put out a video saying that she was actually lamenting some of the challenges she faces in Hollywood because Hollywood seems to have a picture of the kind of African actors they expect, and that is always difficult to reconcile because they are refined actors, accomplished actors from Africa, from Nigeria, who are refined in their English, in their articulation, such that the scripts, the Hollywood scripts, never appeal to the kind of refined actors they are. So according to her, she says that Hollywood has a picture, and one of the challenges she's faced is that what they're looking for is different from who she is. They want the Kunta Kinte looking African that speaks with a deep African accent, or they complain that she's not light enough or she's not dark enough, you know, to have an African role in a movie. So that's some of the challenge, and I know that Genevieve Nnaji has also tried to break into Hollywood. Although I know she's had a few successes here and there, and there've been Nigerian and African actors in Hollywood, but we see the roles they played. You've seen Jimon Honsu, who played was it the one that played the role, one of those African Amistad. He played the role. No, they have this African look and they have an African accent. So Hollywood has defined Africa in a certain way. Now, Nollywood actors who are mostly refined can't seem to fit into the Hollywood picture of who they're supposed to be. How do we reconcile that? That's the conversation. Let me see if our producers can play that video so we can see that quickly before we go into the conversation. Okay, the video is not here yet. So while we're getting that video ready, I'll come to you, Chika. What are your thoughts on this?
So I just wanted to say, these are the peculiar challenges you expect to experience. It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. When you uproot yourself and up and say you're going into a different environment with its own set of unique cultural peculiarities, it's called the American system has their own way of telling stories, right? And we, for the longest time, before the advent of Netflix and the new Nollywood, all of the stories that we had, which we projected on the international space, were those kind of local stories that depicted who we were, how we spoke, epic movies. For the longest time, these were how we told our stories. And so it's not you can forgive it if it feels like America or Hollywood is stuck on perceiving us in that limelight. But I also, I understand the challenges that, you know.
I think it's Hollywood that is, they painted that picture for us.
For the longest time, that was the picture that we painted of ourselves.
We were painting and we're seeing it amongst ourselves. It wasn't exported.
Nigerians would go abroad and take these movies, even if it was during the times of the cassettes and the DVDs. They would go and take that. Even on, you know, it's only Netflix that has kind of, broadened the scope in terms of how our stories have changed. International streaming platforms.
Because I knew there was a season where anything Africa was shown as poverty. We're seen as the human beings that were living on trees. Because even when I got to the US back in the mid-90s, Black Americans were asking me, so you riding on donkeys? Does elephant take you home? Because that's the picture Hollywood described. So that picture is what they expect of you. So you now come as a Stella Damasus to US and I'm wondering, hello, aren't you not supposed to be looking like a gorilla?
So I don't even think it's just limited to African countries. I think it's limited to what they term as third world countries. Because I remember reading an article from Jackie Chan, and he was saying how he eventually broke into Hollywood, how they belittled him, they looked at his side, said his face is a caricature, said so many things negative about him. He said how he suffered for so many years before he eventually broke into the limelight. So I know that is what they actually do, like feeling like, okay, they are on top of the world and we are third world countries. So they do that. And I actually agree with Chika that we actually allowed ourselves to be belittled, because when we go there, like they come to our country and we give them high role, we call them different high names. Meanwhile, when we go there, they call us refugees. And different, okay, why would they come here? We are calling them, giving them expatriates, giving them big names. Because if you don't appreciate yourself, nobody will appreciate you for who you are.
Let me come to Amaka.
Like what Chika said about them being stuck in the perspective, I just call that intellectual laziness. Because it's 2025. Like, why are you not learning? The world is big. the media is there. As in, what is going on? You just choose not to know. You just choose, you know that these things are out there, but you choose just to be intellectually lazy because that suits your narrative.
Live in your bubble.
Yeah. Live in your bubble, right? So, as in, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. But then, as a continent, like, you know, Africa, we have to tell our own stories, and how we tell our own stories matters a lot. Yeah. If you go to Dubai, for example, the only story Dubai is telling you is a story of luxury. When you think Dubai, you think luxury. That's a projection of who they are. They weren't like that before. When did Dubai become a luxurious place? But then that is how they've decided to project themselves. And you know, I always like what Moira is always saying on this thing when she talks about rebranding. As a nation, we need to rebrand ourselves. We need to start telling our own stories. It's okay, we have a history. And then we also need to start telling our stories of even when we weren't using, even when we're going to the toilet, to the bushes to use it as a loo. We need to also tell our stories of how we've evolved to sitting on toilet seats. When you go to China, they still use the ancient and local. For me, that's the worst thing. That's the thing I didn't like about China.
I recorded it.
Yes,
I was so embarrassed to post it because I'm like, hey, this I was embarrassed.
I couldn't. So, like I said, the toilet. When I go to public place, that's what they use. So when I go place, like now they now make sure that they always have one normal toilet for foreigners, because I could not understand. That was a culture shock for me. So if China, that is supposed to be in 2065, developed already, is doing that.
This is my concern, because for this whole conversation, let me tell you what my concern is. Because I think this problem is still a Nigerian problem. Let me tell you why. Our music, Afela sang his music, Afrobeat, the way he did it. Until tomorrow, that music is exported.
Yes.
We were singing almost like the foreigners. Nobody heard us. Until we started singing our own song with our own languages, with our own vibes, with our own. That's when the international community began to appreciate our music. We had songs in this country that were trying to mimic foreign songs, but none of those things went viral or went global. Nobody was interested in it because you're trying to sound American, you're trying to sing pop like the pop. You can't sing hip hop more than the owners of hip hop. You can't sing R&B more than the owners of R&B. Until we created our own beat, that it became exportable. Now, a Nigerian actor who acts Nigerian, who speaks a Nigerian accent, is likely to be spotted by Hollywood because he's African. But you that have been foreignized, you have been refined, you have an accent, you have a mix of a bit of the local Nigerian, everybody, you mix the accent small, you have a bit of fair skin. Hollywood is confused because you are not them. You don't look, you might, in your own mind, you look American. But to the African American, you're African. So so that problem is there. So do you think it's an identity problem on the side of the Nigerians? The question.
I would say that the world keeps evolving. People continue to migrate. People from different parts of the world continue to marry and intermarry, do business. You know, everything seems like a harmonious blend at some point. And so while I very much appreciate the place of culture, staying true to who we are and authentic to who we are when we tell our stories and express our various art forms in entertainment, music, I appreciate that. But also, we have children, for instance, who were born to couples who maybe the mom is in Nigeria and the dad is from America, and the kid was born abroad, lived abroad for so many years, maybe came back to Nigeria. So what would you expect a child like that to retain that sense of Nigerianness, even though, you know, there's obviously been some sort of mix?
So there's a John Boyega, who is an actor. Though he is American. There's a Chiwetel. Those ones, they are foreigners. I'm talking about the ones that are born. So somebody like what's that? That young Nigerian, that artist, that very, very obnoxious guy.
An actor?
No, he's a singer. That has his blonde hair, obnoxious. That was jumping on the roof in an NBA party.
Ruga.
That was NBA party. Father in heaven. I can't remember his name.
Ashake?
No. I know we are talking about the name.
The NBA party he has a blonde hair. He's always getting in trouble. Portable. Do you know a Portable might have a better chance in Hollywood than Stella Damasus?
So we should make
Let me tell you, it doesn't make it nice. I'm trying to make you understand. A Portable as he is might have a better chance in Hollywood because Hollywood has it. So my problem is, how are we redefining what Hollywood, the picture Hollywood has of us?
But what I hear from you is authenticity. You're just trying to say, that what I hear from you, it's important regardless of anything, be authentic to yourself. Like, for example, where it's important, like when we're on TV, if someone hears me, I've heard people, both in this country, out of the country, hear my voice. I was not even here, I was at the airport coming back. And this is not just 2 days ago. And I was talking with somebody, I ran into a friend that we hadn't seen, and we're like, oh, and then someone said, is that not Amaka Orakwe? I said, I watch you on TV. You have to be authentic, that when people hear your voice or whatever, they know this, they can spot you.
Yes.
So some people will come on TV and then they have a different accent and they're trying to speak a certain way or sound a certain way, and then you mix it up. When you're authentic, it's easy for people to identify who you are. And that's what she's trying to say, even in your personality, in your behaviors. And for an actor, you need to stay true to yourself so that people can know you for who you are.
I hear that, but the point is that Stella is true to who she is. She's a successful Nollywood actor.
But
she's both successful locally and
they seek validation. And I think the biggest problem is when we keep seeking validation from others, we will never be true to ourselves. Now, I remember the other time when BET was a problem, we always looking at it that, okay, Grammy, if we don't get Grammy Award, we are a nobody. Why do we give them those honors or feel like if they don't rate us high, we on our own, we are not. We know that in the music
Hollywood
industry, we are doing well. We are doing great. Tima Savage made us proud now. Didn't she perform? She did now. Did she beg for it? I believe she has earned the right to have that. So, like, we are big, and they know that we are big, but normally they usually put us down, and we always accept to be put down. So I feel we should stop seeking validation from them.
But Hollywood is a platform that is anybody across the world needs that extra validation that Hollywood called me. So the question now is, as Chika was saying, we must therefore force or cause Hollywood to redefine that the perception of what African actor is, because Hollywood has defined us as a certain way, that it is a portable I want somebody that just looks crazy, that speaks a certain way, that has that is a bit restless, because African definition to somebody who is jumping around, who is that, so in their own scripting, the African role there is somebody who's just speaking like Kunta Kinte or doing something.
But that's who we are right now.
Therefore redefine that.
So that's
so we need to redefine that.
I've seen some Nollywood movie makers and filmmakers and producers in their bid to cross over to the other side, to Hollywood. So what they do is sometimes they travel abroad and they do a fine mesh of some of the top performing Nigerian actors, maybe take them over there, or those who are already there, have them collaborate in movies with Hollywood actors. I've seen that, happen, and that makes it easier on the eye if you have it. But honestly, we're not Africans as Africans were 60 years ago. We're not Africans right now. Even we're Nigerians, yes, but come on, we wear African fabrics, but in European styles and patterns. A mix has happened, and so we need to keep instead with the moving times. We really have to change that narrative.
And this takes me to a point I wanted to make earlier. Do you know that if African or Nigerian actors are willing to work with African-American actors like a Tyler Perry, Tyler Perry will not judge a Stella. Tyler Perry will not judge a Genevieve.
The journey and the movement.
But we Africans, until Hollywood, the white Hollywood, accepts us,
that's what we feel.
We don't feel validated.
Yes, exactly.
So that's the problem. That's what you're saying. Because we are looking for validation in the wrong places. We are looking for validation with white Nollywood. But the truth, they are African-American movie producers who are probably willing to work with Africans. But we haven't also given them that respect. And it takes me to the comments I made recently, which went viral. But it wasn't a recent viral, but it was an old video many years ago on YourView, where I was saying that a lot of parents, some parents, not all parents, some parents, when you're traveling abroad, they sit you down and say, when you're going to America, don't go and start hanging out with those African Americans. So you have to stay with the white community because we need you to go focus on your schoolwork, your education, and go and get pregnant and trying to coach you. Don't mix it. So because the picture they have is different of African Americans in a certain way. So that mindset is what will make somebody like an actor who go to Hollywood and expect only validation from the white Nollywood and not interested in what the African American community are doing. Because if you go there, there's a possibility they are likely to work with us. than the white Nollywood. That's how.
But they don't really like us. Majority of Black Americans.
Go ahead, Chika.
Yeah, majority of Black Americans. Because I lived in the US for 2 years. I lived in New York and Jersey. So the Black Americans see us as Africans who pride ourselves on being the extremists of the pure Africans, and that we look down on them as, you know, Americans who have been adulterated. So there's even a disconnect. There's as of today, there's an existing disconnect between Nigerian Africans or African Africans, pure Africans, and then the actual Black Americans. So, and even within their communities too, these battles that we're facing with acceptance, with the white folks, it's still an ongoing issue over there as well. So regardless of how much we fight these issues, what I would really say to this is, there's the vision or the picture that a true Nigerian paints or a true African paints. It has changed over time, but we must not completely lose who we are. It's still important that we tell African stories the way African stories are as of today. If you go to many of those film festivals, the ones in Africa and the ones abroad, all of the movies that do, the movies, documentaries and short films that do very well are movies that depict who we are.
Exactly.
And even futuristic. I've seen some futuristic African movies where, like, what's this one that Chad Boswick did? The guy who died.
Wakanda.
Yes. You know, mixing African stories with technology, futuristic. We can do all of that.
Now they painted Black Panther. They painted their country well. Americans always paint their country well. Look at Air Force One. Look at so many other ones. They will look like, oh, America is the heroes of it. What do we paint as a producer or as a writer or as a film director? We would usually paint killing, ritualists. Is that not what we paint? We will paint suffering. We are suffering children, using children anyhow.
Corrupt police.
So we don't even paint a good picture about ourselves. We are beyond that. You would say, they used us for, there's a film that they shot with Captain America, I think Captain America Reloaded or something like that, one part of where they showed Nigeria, and they wrote Lagos or something, and they showed the houses that were squashed together, and there was a bombing that happened, and they showed the people, hey, I'm not like, what? Is this how Lagos is?
Is your Lagos not squashed?
But they are beautiful places.
Let me take this call. Let me take this call. Tosi, are you there? Thanks for calling. You're live. I lost that call. Let me go on a very short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.